Welcome to today's webinar, Native Connections Approach, Part 1. On behalf of the Connections Contracting Officers, Maureen Madison, Yonda Mike Trooper, we'd like to welcome you today. The Native Connections Approach, Part 1.
Adler, I'm a grantee technical assistant, and I'd like to welcome you to our webinar today. This is part 1 of a 4-part series. And at this time, I'd like to introduce the grantee technical assistants that will be speaking today. So Bobby, please introduce yourself.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, David again. Actually, hand shlon to get something, but she's team to Heglini Dashiche, Kis Anishistene Additionale. So I am Salt Clan and I am born for the Tangle people. My maternal grandfathers are the Water Flows Together, and my paternal grandfathers are the Hopi tribe, the Bear Clan. And my name is Bobby Arthur, and I'm a grantee technical assistant. I am Navajo. I'm originally from a small, tiny community called Vicente, New Mexico, on the Navajo Nation. But I'm coming to you today from the Phoenix, Arizona area. So glad to be here with you all. And I will pass to Idella.
Thank you, Bobby, and thank you for that beautiful prayer this morning. That was really awesome to listen to. I could just really feel all those good words. Again, thank you. Okay, Nixakwa, Nistu Netanaku, Ipasawaki, Baksakoyaki. My name is Idella King. I'm an enrolled member of the Northern Arapaho Nation and a descendant of the Blackfeet and Gros Ventre nations. Currently, I reside on the unceded territory of the Spokane Nation in Eastern Washington, along with my husband and our little pets, as well as my children and grandchildren. And I have a couple of brothers that are also living in this community. I too am a grantee technical assistant, and I have communities in California, Montana, North Dakota, Idaho, and recently Oregon. So I welcome you all here today, and I'm going to pass it over to Sharon.
Thank you, Idella. Bobby, I would also like to thank you for your opening. It was beautiful and such a great way to open our session here today. So my name is Sharon Eagleman, and I'm also a grantee technical assistant. I'm a member of the Fort Peck Assiniboine and Sioux tribes of northeastern Montana on my dad's side. And I'm also Little Traverse Bay Band of Ottawa Indians on my mother's side from Michigan. I live in Lawrence, Kansas. I've lived here for a little bit over 15 years, and I'm lucky that my family also has relocated to Lawrence, and so we all live here. And my son, I have a son, he's a senior in high school, and we have a dog that is an escape artist. He can get out of any unlocked vehicle, new cars, old cars, it does not matter. So that's us. But I just want to thank you all for being here. And yeah, so I'm excited about the rest of the presentation, and I'll turn it over back to Bobby.
Thank you, Sharon. I'm going to jump in Bobby's spot really quick. Again, thank you for joining us. In today's webinar, I'm going to share with everybody the objectives for today. We're going to discover how the updated Native Connections Approach graphic will enhance a more integrative approach to utilizing a cultural framework. We're going to understand the SAMHSA Strategic Prevention Framework, or SPIF. You may hear that through our presentation, the principles of the SPIF. We're going to identify the gathering of Native Americans or the gathering of Alaska Natives and kind of talk briefly about the difference in the two. You're also going to hear them being referred to as the GONA or the GOAN principles and how they will enhance the cultural-based planning process. And finally, we're going to review the 5 major networking opportunities. First, we're going to have Bobby take the next section, and she's going to be sharing the updated Native Connections graphic. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Idella. So you can see, for those who are returning grantees, we have updated our Native Connections Approach graphic. We have, it's still in the circular, you can see the Native Connection Approach graph is circular and it's not linear. This ties in with the thinking of how Native people think. You know, we think more circular. It's the natural thought process of Native people. And you'll notice on the outside of the graph of the strategic prevention framework. You'll find assessment, capacity planning, implementation, and evaluation. Like what Adela said, you're going to hear this throughout the presentation today, a lot of that term strategic prevention framework, the SPIF. So it's tied into the Native Connections approach. Moving into the graph, you're going to find that the Native Connections approach, you'll find the foundation blocks, which are the community systems analysis, the community readiness model, the strategic action plan, also as a SAP, and the implementation of the strategic action plan. Next slide, please. The Native Connections approach is an indigenous adaptation to the public health model and the strategic prevention framework, the SPIF. And it was developed specifically for American Indians and Alaska Native communities in their efforts to address substance misuse and suicide in their communities. The Native Connections approach was produced by the Native Connections team in coordination with the Native communities and the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration, SAMHSA, the government projects officers, the GPOs. The Native Connections approach provides tools, for grant compliance and program success. Next slide. You'll notice that the Native Connections approach are basically 4 sections. The first one is the community systems analysis, which you'll hear us often refer to as a CSA. We're really big on acronyms here, so you'll hear us refer to that as a CSA. The second portion is a community readiness model, which is the CRM. The strategic action plan is part of one of those sections as well, which is also referred to as a SAP, the SAP. And then the final section of the Native Connections approach is the implementation of strategic action plan, and that's considered ISAP. And next slide. So we're going to look at the strategic prevention framework. And we're going to start with on the graph that says assessment. As the assessment portion of the graph gives the grantees the opportunity to identify the resources and the programs within their community and the surrounding areas. Knowing this information can help measure the community's strengths in determining how ready the community is for change when it comes to prevention. And this data within the CSA and this portion, the assessment portion, is one of the foundations for the planning. On the slide there, you can see that the CSA also helps to build relationships with the data keepers who play important roles in planning. So there's this connection that is starting to happen once you do this first part of the Native Connections approach at the CSA. Next slide, please. The next slide, or the next portion, is what we call capacity. Real important part. In this phase, the communities begin to work together. They start collaborating and networking what the resources and programs are within their communities. In this phase, you'll also start to begin to see maybe some youth engagement will start to happen in this phase. As time goes on and the collaboration and the building capacity starts, there's going to be opportunities to develop policies and procedures in this phase. All of these things are all really connected to meet the requirements of your grant. Okay. Next slide, please. And I pass it to Idella.
Thank you, Bobby. Next, we're going to be looking at planning. And this is the third step in the strategic prevention framework. Again, the SPIF. Developing a comprehension strategic plan or the strategic action plan. I'm sure that sounds familiar to most of you. In the strategic action plan, communities have the opportunity to develop a strategic plan that includes the vision for prevention activities, but also strategies for organizing and implementing prevention efforts or activities. The strategic plan must be based on documented needs. It must build on identified resources and strengths, will set measurable objectives and include performance measures, baseline data against which progress will be monitored. Plans can and should change as a result of ongoing needs assessment and monitoring activities. You're going to hear us say many, 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 many times, this is a living document. This is something that will be changed because you're going to be collecting data, and that's going to impact the direction you're going to need to go. And this is, we're looking at years 2 to 5. Next slide, please. Thank you. The fourth step in the SPIF is called implementation. This is where programs should be implementing the evidence-based prevention program, which needs to include cultural components or adaptations that are unique to your community without compromising the program's effectiveness. This is why you can look at something that happens in the Navajo Nation. It could be the same evidence-based program, but with those cultural adaptations, it's going to look so completely different up on the Blackfeet Nation. But yet you're using the same evidence-based programs. And that's why it's so important for you to use your advisory council, work with your community, work with your youth. The one thing about when you're making those adaptations to your community is there's core components to those evidence-based programs, and those core components are responsible for producing positive outcomes. Those core components are so crucial that you keep those in that evidence-based program. I think of core components like I think about a recipe. Core components are like the ingredients to a good fry bread recipe. So in making fry bread, you can use different types of flour. And yes, we all love the Bluebird flour, but there's times where we have to run out and get that gold medal flour. Or some of us, because Walmart's right around the corner, we're using that Walmart brand for our fry bread. But the one thing you can't avoid using is flour. It's one of the main components or the core component of that fry bread recipe. If you take the fry bread, or if you take the flour out of the fry bread, that just won't be fry bread. So that's what core components are. I wanted to use, since we all know what fry bread is. The key to implementation is to provide ongoing support or training to all your stakeholders, to the leadership, to administrative supports, and ongoing monitoring. Learning what works is so important as learning what does not work with your program participants. And this is so crucial in monitoring. You're always having to go back to the drawing board, and that's good. This helps to strengthen your programming as it moves through the life of your grant. The issue of sustainability should be a constant throughout each step of planning and implementation, and should lead to the creation of long-term strategies to sustain programs, policies, and practices. Next, Sharon's going to introduce the last 2 steps of the SPIF.
Sharon, you're on mute. Start over.
Excuse me. Thank you. So thank you, Idella. The 5th step in the SPIF is evaluation. Through process and outcome evaluation, this step involves monitoring programs and practices. For example, a community can continue to support the activities that are working or modify or replace those that are not. Although evaluation is presented here as the last step, it is actually a continuous process that should begin with the first step of assessment. Evaluation lets a community and its partners know how effectively the community has defined and is responding to the community identified issues. Next slide, please. So the strategic prevention framework has several guiding principles, and prevention, number one, prevention is an ordered set of steps along a continuum to promote individual, family, and community health and prevent mental and behavioral disorders, support resilience and recovery, and prevent relapse. One of the things, the second point is that prevention is prevention is prevention. And this means that it does not matter if the focus of prevention is on reducing the effects of cancer, heart disease, diabetes, substance abuse, or mental illness. The common components of effective prevention are all the same. Additionally, prevention of any one disorder frequently helps to reduce another. And systems of prevention services work better than service silos. And baseline data, common assessment tools, and outcomes shared across service systems can promote accountability and effectiveness of prevention efforts.
Hey, Sharon,
Yes?
Deborah, one of the things too about the guiding principles is that they do have common risks and protective factors, that are just ingrained in there. And I think that's one of the things that good prevention really focuses on is, that those prevention efforts, those factors that they can be changed. And I really like how you keep emphasizing that this is a living document that you can change, your strategic action plan as you're moving forward. One of the things I always find too is how important resilience is. And I think that's what I really like about this Indigenous adaptation is that it really focuses on how resilient we are as people and that we can move forward with these and you do see successes. So anyway, I just wanted to, make sure that we really pointed that out also. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Deborah. I appreciate that. Next slide, please. So the Gona, the Gathering of Native Americans, or also known as the Goan, the Gathering of Alaska Natives, is a culture-based planning process where community members are asked to they're invited and they're asked to gather and address community identified issues. So it's an interactive process that reflects cultural values, traditions, and spiritual practices that focus on 4 pillars: belonging, mastery, interdependence, and generosity. I just wanted to note that under the Gathering of Native Americans, their emphasis is on a culture-based planning process involving community members. And for the Gathering of Alaska Natives, they also recognize the importance of subsistence in the environment and how it impacts the elements of the Alaska Wellness Wholeness Circle for healing and wellness in the community. And it values balance, harmony, and inclusivity of everyone and everything throughout its process. So I wanted to touch on that before we move on. Thank you. So the first pillar of the Goan process is belonging. And the purpose of belonging, this part, is to create an open, safe, and trusting environment so that participants can begin the work of joining together as a community to address common goals. When we were developing this slide set, I shared this picture, and this, my dad is he's from the Fort Peck Assiniboine and Sioux tribes of Montana. He turned 88 a few weeks ago. And I just feel so lucky and blessed that my family and all of us, that we've had him for so long, I'm grateful for that every day. And he's the one on the right, on the far right. His name is Chet Eagleman Sr. And he was telling us, he shared this picture when he attended Flandreau Indian School. He went to high school there. And I think this was his junior year. And he was just pointing out to us who his teammates were, gave us their name and their tribe. One's from Rocky Boy, one's from Fort Berthold, and the the other two next to him are from Wind River in Wyoming. And so I liked this picture because I thought that it was a good example or reflection of this first GONA pillar. And so we have some upcoming webinars that are related to this belonging theme. And we have a webinar coming up, and there's a small typo here. It's actually, the title is Naming Ceremonies in Youth Wellness on June 30th, 2024. And then we will also have Traditional Foods as Medicine, Traditional Ecological Knowledge on June 4th in this early summer 2024. Okay. So the second pillar, mastery, is to understand how the losses and grief stemming from historical trauma can undermine our wellness today. What I like about this is that I've read that it encourages us to let go and release the effects of historical trauma and embrace wellness as a community. Mastery also recognizes the importance of traditional cultural practices in healing. And I just wanted to share real quick about this. When we were working on the slides, I found this picture and I shared that my son is a senior in high school now. But their shirts, you probably can't see them, but in the picture, but it says Mini Mocs. And some of my Native friends here in Lawrence, we started a running club for adults, and we were the Smoking Mocs. So our children, when they were really small, they were the Mini Mocs. And we have it's just a wonderful Native community here in Lawrence, and a couple, one, he was a coach at Haskell for several years. They started this for all children, like Native children, and then it was just opened up to the community for several years. So my son, and that's one of his my son is on the right, his best friend's on the left, his sister's in the middle, their cousins over there, so they're all kind of related, and they've been throwing my son and he calls them his cousins since they were about 4. And one of the things that this made me think of is that they had done Mini Mocs for over 10 years, and they were ending the program, and my son and all of these older ones went to volunteer. And so it was so nice. Like, I just got a little bit choked up seeing them mentor and work with, the younger children, teaching them how to run and jump and throw and all the events, and then volunteering at events. They were the ones that were, running the events. And so it was just, it was kind of, I don't know, it just got me choked up a little bit. So let's see. So I would like to also mention that we thought that a good topic for this area was on trauma and healing, the effects of trauma on the mind and body. And this webinar took place on November 7th, and the link should be in the Native Connections Resource Center, or you could ask your GTA to see or to send you the link. And we also have another webinar coming up in May 14th, 2024, Understanding Educational Trauma and How to Create Programming to Support Our Young American Indian and Alaska Native Students. Excuse me. So interdependence is the third pillar. And I do want to say, before I touch on this, the description of the picture, I feel very fortunate that we work with so many Native people who were instrumental in the GONA and GOAN, the development of the GONA GOAN, and have seen it evolve and grow. And I just am always so thankful when my colleagues share with us their personal experiences of when this was developed and how it came along. So I was talking to one of my colleagues, John Bird, about this picture, and he said, "Oh, he said, I think that's a great picture." He said, "If you think about that," he said, once we create in the Gona, once we create a safe, inclusive space for people, and we start healing, we start healing from trauma," he said, "then we're ready to work together." He said it's kind of like the spark that allows you to do more. He said you're always able to do more if you, um, it allows you to, it helps you to do more and helps have more services. And it just, it's good at getting people motivated to think about what needs to be done for their community and then to turn around and go back and do that. So this is where we initiate the planning process. And we have a webinar coming up regarding cyber security and bullying on April 30th in the spring. And this, I'm really excited for this product and this webinar that we are working on. And it talks, what we'll be discussing is how one of our grantees has been working with Homeland Security on cybersecurity and bullying, and they've been asked to do presentations as a result of that. As a result of that work, they've been asked to do presentations in all of the schools in their district. And so I'm really excited for that. Okay, next slide, please. So the last pillar of the Gona Goen is generosity. And so that's talking about the gifts that we share with others. For example, during the Gona, there's a time where that we create gifts and then we give those to others. And that is kind of like a physical, a physical showing of generosity. But generosity is also recognized as one of the highest values that American Indians and Alaska Natives have. And it emphasizes like our culture, and we emphasize the importance of giving back to others and to the community. So in here, we honor the important role of teachers and elders who share knowledge with us and our future generations. There will be a Native Wellness through Traditional Games taking place on April 9th, 2024. And I just wanted to add that many of our Native Connections grantees host a Gona or Goan as part of their strategic action plan. And this can be an impactful, healing community experience, and it can be used to address many of the needs identified in the Community Readiness Models Assessment. So that is all I have, and I would like to turn it back over to Idella.
Thank you, Sharon, and thank you for explaining Gona. And I really enjoyed those pictures that you shared with us. I think it was so awesome to see your father and his basketball picture, and then your son in that basketball picture. And it really did speak to me, the belonging. So thank you so much for sharing. So in pivoting, we're going to be talking about when Bobby explained that our new Native Connections graphic, kind of the outside or the supports that we give to our grantees. And so if you think about the graphic, these are the things that are on the outside. What we have learned is that peer-to-peer networking is a great tool to find success in your Native Connections programming. So we at the Tribal Training and Technical Assistance Center have developed a series of networking opportunities to help facilitate informal meet and greets, both in person and online. Today, I will share with you a couple of those opportunities: the National Learning Community, Regional Learning Community, the regional site visits, buddy matches, and the webinars. Next slide, please. Thank you. The first one I'm going to visit about is the Native Connection webinar series. Our webinars are recorded live, just like today, and will always be available to our grantees through the Native Connections Resource Center. And we always have these up so you can use them as resources, go back and find one that you might enjoy or a topic you may have never heard of. Webinars are an engaging virtual event that is facilitated online by your GTAs. Through our webinars, we're able to empower our grantee communities with valuable resources, best practices, and effectively managing programs for successful outcomes. They are very interactive at times, with participants getting up-to-date training and information. Some of our webinars will have breakout rooms for smaller group work. Sometimes we have polls to find out emerging trends, and we always have time for Q&A. And we love adding pictures of Indian country into our slides too, and of our families. Sometimes we have video links, guest presenters. At times we spotlight grantees or bring up topics our grantees would like more information about. Many of our topics have been suggested by grantees as well. If you have a suggestion or want to share an emerging topic, then talk to your GTA. I guarantee if you're interested, then others will be interested as well. Next slide, please. National Learning Communities, or NLCs. They seek to enable a grantee's ability to share ideas and resources on programmatic innovations during COVID-19 pandemic, and we have continued on since that time. At first, the NLC spotlighted grantees that were sharing their response during COVID. They highlighted their responses to the immediate needs of their communities. They discussed and shared details of their challenges and solutions during this time. Some of the earlier NLCs, such as session number 8, how the Pueblo of Acoma discussed how they used media to create community also during the pandemic, or session number 9, the Fort Belknap Indian community discussed building, strengthening, and maintaining their Native Connection team during the pandemic. As the NLCs have evolved, we started adding topics to share with all of our grantees and all cohorts, such as session number 19, the history of the Gathering of Native Americans, or the Goans, Gathering of Alaska Natives. Sharon just shared with us about that. Tips on how to adapt this virtually, and communities that utilize this culturally based healing event during the pandemic. We are up to session 36 now. One of the recent NLCs, session number 35, was on October 31st of this year, and it focused on the 988 Suicide Crisis Lifeline. We shared about the SAMHSA's Tribal Training and Technical Assistance Center's efforts with other federal partners. The format of the NLCs is similar to the RLCs, which I'll be describing during the next slide. It's also worth mentioning that the webinars and the NLC recordings are always posted in the Native Connections Resource Center, the NCRC. If you want to learn more about our previous spotlights or topics, please check out the NCRC Center. Also, be on the lookout for our upcoming NLCs. I think April 1st, we're going to be having sharing across Native Connection regions, biggest program challenges, surprises, and wins. Following that will be June 1st, our community advisory boards and other hot topics. Next slide, please. Regional Learning Communities, RLCs. They provide an opportunity for grantees to share ideas, resources with their regional peers. This is an informal meeting set up by the TTA Center for grantees. In each RLC, we have an agenda set up ahead of time, which includes an opening or a greeting facilitated by the GTAs. We then turn it over to the grantees and ask for help in opening up the meeting in a good way, kind of like what we did today. When we ask our grantees to open up in a good way, we're inviting them to come in with a prayer, maybe in their language or in English, or maybe they might want to share a moment of silence or a good story. Let's see, or a poem or a song, or whatever the grantee chooses. I've heard some beautiful songs. I think one earlier this year had a mother and a daughter singing a closing song for us. If we don't get a volunteer from our grantees, we ask that our GTAs in attendance to help us out. So like today, Bobby, as a GTA, she helped us out with the opening in a good way. We then introduce all of the TTA staff, and if we have any GPOs present, we invite them to also introduce themselves. Then we ask our grantees to introduce their name, their cohort number, and their program name. And sometimes we may be having a program that has maybe 3 or 4 participants in one logged on. And we're just asking that you include all of the people in the room. So that way we know who we're talking with. And sometimes, yeah, we like to count how many people we have in attendance. Next, we either introduce our topic or our grantee spotlight. And the grantee spotlight is usually set up ahead of time. And a grantee will prepare a presentation about their Native Connections program or community, along with time for Q&A. And I've seen some awesome presentations. I've seen some PowerPoint, some slides. I think I've had some grantees also present digital stories. We've also had them share flyers. So whatever the grantee would like and how they would like to present their information, we just ask that you send it to us so that way we can prepare it ahead of time. If we do go with a topic, the topics that we go with are usually brought up by a grantee. It's usually a request. They want to see some information. So we'll research and we'll get some information together for a topic. We also like to bring in invited guests to share information with the group. All of the RLCs all finish up with announcements, ideas for spotlights or topics. And we do ask that, if you want to share one of your awesome activities you're doing, please do so, because it helps to get others inspired and motivated to try new things. Maybe in your region, everybody's having similar thoughts or ideas, especially in the different seasons we have. So please share, please volunteer. It's always good to have communities sharing their spotlight or topics.
Mhm.
And then we close out in a good way. Again, we invite our grantees to join us in closing the meeting in a good way. And we ask for a closing prayer, word, song, or a silence. So if you would like to present during the spotlight or have ideas, you can always talk to your GTA. Each of our GTAs belong to the regional learning community your program is located in. Deborah?
Oh, wait, now, I was just gonna say, that on the Montana-Wyoming Regional Learning Community, on our next one, we're gonna have Fort Peck, who's gonna be talking about, they're their first reservation-based 988 crisis line in the nation. And so their director is going to come on and tell us, just how they did that, and how they created that and what has been the response. And so I really encourage grantees, in the different regions, please think about sharing what you're doing, because it might seem like a small subject to you, but believe me, we want to know what you're doing, because the regional learning communities are really a good way to really share what you're doing with your partners in the same region. They are so informative. I think as GTAs, we're on several of the regional learning communities. I think I'm on about 4 of these right now, and each one is different and each one is so informative. So I'd really encourage you to share what you're doing on the regional learning communities. And I did put a message in the chat box. If you have some ideas, for the regional learning communities, national learning communities, or webinars, let us know what they are. We would really like to feature you on these networking opportunities. So thank you, Idella.
Well, thank you, Deborah. And that also brings to mind our recent Montana-Wyoming RLC. We had Mary Bigbow from Rocky Boy in Montana share with our community about Smudge the Res, which was a 7-week activity. And they went out to all different parts of their tribal nation and used Smudge to bless homes, bless communities, give out a lot of prevention materials, make contacts. They had horseback, they had drummers and singers and elders. It was a really beautiful digital story that they created and shared with the rest of us. And I was just so impressed. I'm Mary Bigbow's GTA, so I had an opportunity to learn about the planning that they were talking about and what they were planning to do. To see that from the planning all the way to all these different regions. Like I said, it was a 7-week activity. It was amazing. One of the activities was even at an urban area off the reservation. And she said, well, only 100 people attended that. And I live in an urban area. And for me to see 100 Indians in one urban area, that was very successful. So that's what's so exciting about being able to share these different activities and projects. Plus, you also get to hear how some of these activities you're doing are really unique. And that's, yeah, that was pretty exciting. Well, before I go to the next slide, I wanted to tell you there are 7 identified regions. Cohorts 5 through 9 are invited to attend. I'm going to attempt to share with you all of the states and regions, the meeting dates and times with you all now. So the first one is Alaska. They meet bi-monthly on the 3rd Wednesday of the month at 10 o'clock a.m. Alaska Standard Time. Next, we have California, Nevada. That meets bi-monthly on the 1st Thursday of the month at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Next, we have Eastern, Central, Southern states. They meet quarterly on the 2nd Thursday of the month, starting at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. The states included are Arkansas, Florida, Kansas, Louisiana, Missouri, New York, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Texas, and Virginia or Vermont. I'm so sorry. Four Corners meets quarterly, the 2nd Tuesday of the month at 10 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. And the states included are Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, and Colorado. Marvin, he put in the chat box, it's Virginia. I'm so sorry. Thank you for sharing that. Next, we have the Great Lakes Northern Plains. They meet monthly on the 4th Thursday of the month at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Times. Those states are included are Connecticut, Maine, Minnesota, Missouri, North Dakota, Nebraska, South Dakota, and Wisconsin. And then Montana, Wyoming. They meet quarterly on the 3rd Wednesday of the month at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. And finally, we have the Pacific Northwest. They meet quarterly the 3rd Thursday of the month at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And the states included are Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. Next slide, please. Okay. So the regional site visits are considered in-person grantee meetings. And for some of your programs, this is a mandatory meeting. This is spelled out in your NOFA. Last year, Native Connections held 4 regional site visits where grantees were able to meet in person, discuss their programs, and share ideas with other grantees. In 2022 to 23, 74 grantees attended the 4 RSVs and found them to be informative and full of useful resources. In 2024, Native Connections will be hosting 3 more RSVs for grantees to connect. Next, I'm going to click on a link to share with you a short video to learn more about the success of last year's RSVs and how your program can benefit from attending one of this year's RSVs. us. I wanted to finish talking about the regional site visits. The regional site visits, we have a formula that we like putting together our native framework, and that's that GONA and GOAN. So in our regional site visits, you'll see belonging, mastery, interdependence, and generosity. And we really focus on those 4 themes in how we set up our regional site visits. So the first day, we focus on belonging. And so at our regional site visits, we have a grand entry of our programs. So for those of you planning on coming to some of these regional site visits this year, please remember to bring a tribal flag or a program flag. And if you would like to get decked out in your best native gear, or your beautiful ribbon skirt or ribbon shirt, or your dancing regalia, please feel free to do so. We have all of our grantees line up, and our amazing staff get together with all of our grantees as the register. And so as you're coming into the grand entry of your programs, we'll be telling your names, your community, what tribe you guys are coming and representing, what urban area you could be coming from. And then we move into belonging. So a lot of the different presentations will focus on belonging. And then we also like to do a lot of icebreakers, where we get up, we do different kind of games. It's usually 10 to 15 minutes. And we do ask our grantees, if you have a particular icebreaker or game that you play in your community, share that with us. I think one of the California, Nevada, the RSV over there, we had the MHA tribe, Mandan, Hidatsa, and Arikara. They shared with us how they've indigenized sweep your teepee, and that changes throughout our regions. And so yes, please come with some great games that you play with your communities, how you engage your youth. We also have a poster board session, but we're kind of switching that to where it's it can be done online too. Our dashboards are going to be up really soon, and we're going to be giving you a lot of information about how to prepare for the regional site visits. Which reminds me, we have the 3 coming up this year, 2024. The first one's going to be April 9th through the 11th. It's called the West Coast, which will also include grantees from Alaska. So this is a rather large region we're looking at hosting, and that's going to be in Sacramento, California. Our next regional site visit it's called the Four Corners, and that is going to be in May 2024. And we're going to follow it up with the Great Lakes Northern Plains, which will be in June or July 2024. And both of those locations are to be determined. I mean, it's a lot of fun. And if you are able to make it, but also remember, these are in-person grantee meetings, and that's spelled out right in your grant that you need to be attending these. So with that, I'm going to ask for the next slide. This slide, this is the Buddy Match slide, and Buddy Match is another peer networking opportunity that we set up for our grantees. A lot of times your GPO or your GTA, they might have a different community in mind that is similar to maybe you and your program, such as some of our urban Indian programs. We like to match you up with somebody who's in your region, somebody who is similar. If you're a tribal community, we'd probably match you up with another tribal community. But basically our GTAs take the information. If our GPOs want to share, hey, I think this would be a great buddy match for this community, we take all that information. We have a form we fill out internally, and we send it to our program manager, and those matches get paired up. And then we turn around and help to facilitate those first discussions or meetings. At times, some of our buddy matches, that could be something you set up, quarterly, maybe monthly, maybe even bi-weekly. But it's an opportunity for you to kind of have somebody else who's doing the work that you're doing, kind of in the same type of setting that you're in. let's see, I will turn this back over to Deborah to share with us some of the upcoming slides or upcoming webinars. Thank you.
All right. Hey, thank you, Idella, Sharon, and Bobby. You know, I think going over everything, this is the first, this is part one of a 4-part webinar series. And so I think you've really gotten a good overview of the SPIF, the Strategic Prevention Framework, and GONA. And you're going to hear more about those in part 2, 3, and part 4, because again, we do really align our webinars up with that Native Connections approach. Graphic. We did put that into our chat box, so please download that. We also put in there SAMHSA's SAMHSA what is it? Fact sheet information on the SPIF. It is pretty lengthy, but it does give you a lot of information on just how you use the SPIF in your program. That is one of the documents that we did use when we were doing our research for this webinar. And then I think we also put in there information about our networking opportunities that Idella went over. And you can take some time to review that. I think that was like one of our first ones that we put in the chat box. So you might have to scroll back up. So please download those 3 and review those. And again, as Idella and Sharon and Bobby emphasized, these webinars, NLCs, RLCs, these are all recorded. So if you do miss them, contact your GTA and we will make sure that you get the link. And, so you can keep, so that you can keep up on what's happening with these. Part 2, we're going to really go into, how do you get ready to collect data? You all have quarterly reports that are due where you have to provide your indicator numbers. This webinar is going to really tell you how the CSA, the CRM, and the SAP, we're going to go a little bit in depth on each one of those to really show you where are the, how you start using those systems or those processes to help you get ready to collect data. And then part 3 in February, we're going to look at how you start planning to put together your strategic action plan and how you start planning to do your implementation. And because your SAP is a document that you do, we really encourage you to update. We're going to talk about how you update that document yearly so that you keep it fresh. It's, it's what you need to do in your community, and, you keep moving this forward. And we can't forget how important it is to implement these programs. And that might seem easy to do, but this is a juggling act. I think you're all finding out on how you make this all work. And so that's what we're going to really look at is, really give you some ideas on how to keep this all moving forward. And we can't forget evaluation. And again, this ties right back into your implementation, to your indicators. We want to talk to you about, what are your outcomes? What are your outputs? What are your measurement tools? How do you keep track of those so that you are on time with your quarterly reports? So, again, these are all part of the training that we provide you with the TTA here from the SAMHSA's Training and Technical Assistance Center. So the registration links will be coming out in the weekly digest, which comes out every Wednesday. So if you or your team, if you have new team members, send your contact information to your GTA, and we will make sure that, you do get those weekly digest and the information on these webinars. Let's see the next slide, please. So we provided a lot of information today. So if anybody has any questions or closing comments about anything you've heard on our webinar today, I'd invite you to unmute yourself or to put a comment or question in the chat box. And again, all of the networking opportunities that we've talked about today, these are all interactive. And so we really do welcome your questions, and any comments. So I think we're pretty much up to the top of our hour, and I don't see anything in our chat box at this time. If you do have questions, please share those with your GTAs. And I would like to thank you all for being on our webinar today. The next slide, please. And I look forward to seeing you on part 2 in about 4 weeks. So thank you for joining us today.